Hi, my name is Aaron, this is my show Reeducation, and today I'm going to talk about Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder is a racist homophobe. Oh, did that get your attention? I think it got the attention of everybody online. It seems like everybody for the last week or so has been talking nonstop about Steven Crowder, Vox, and YouTube. But why? Why are they talking about these things? What makes this story so important? Is it the fact that they're changing the rules on YouTube? Well, yeah. But it also goes much deeper than that. It also has to do with the spectacle. What exactly am I talking about? What do I mean? Well, let me explain it this way. The owners want us to talk about this. So here we are. So who exactly is Steven Crowder? Well, Steven Crowder is, assumably, a comedian on online presence. Though I'm fairly certain that the only joke that he's ever held is the one in his hand while masturbating to himself, dressed as a woman trying to make fun of trans people. I'm not trying to kink shame anybody here, but it does seem a little bit suspicious that somebody likes to dress up as a girl to trigger the libs all the time and has no other ulterior motives. But I digress. Steven Crowder is apparently a comedian, but he also happens to sell a line of t-shirts, one of which says, "Socialism is for figs," with the I being a cute little fig. It's a way for him to be homophobic, but also at the same time completely immature and ridiculous. Steven Crowder's arguments are basically that akin to a 10-year-old boy on a playground that was given millions of dollars to produce their own show. Steven Crowder is not funny. He's not interesting. He's not even relevant. And yet here we are. So what did he do? Well, Steven Crowder has done a lot of terrible things to a lot of different people. But the most recent thing that he did that was terrible was directed at somebody known as Carlos Meza from the news organization Vox. Apparently, and truthfully, Steven Crowder for the last 2 or so years has been attacking constantly this Carlos Meza person for being gay and being a Latino person. And in doing so has sent hordes of his followers to Carlos Meza's social media platforms to basically harass and dox and abuse this person for his lifestyle, for things that he had absolutely no control over, for his race, for his sexual identity. And that's wrong. No matter how you skin it, it is wrong for him to have done that. And right now, Steven Crowder gets the ability to say, well, I never told anybody to go down there and harass Carlos Meza. But he also at the same time gets to sit back and watch all of his followers do that without saying anything about it, and while setting an example, showing them that it's okay to treat people that way. So Carlos Meza went on to Twitter and had a bit of a Twitter storm, and explained that he wasn't necessarily mad at Steven Crowder, though. He was mad at the platform. He was mad at YouTube for not enforcing their policy agreement, for not stopping people from bullying and harassing. So as the story is being projected, apparently Carlos ran to Big Daddy YouTube and told them that Steven was being mean to him and that they should do something about it. There's nothing wrong with that. I see absolutely no reason why YouTube shouldn't enforce its policies. I mean, it is the one that created those policies. And Carlos Meza was simply using the tools that YouTube provided to him. Carlos, assumably, was using the tools provided by the system to make the system a little bit better of a place. And there's nothing wrong with that. YouTube is a private industry. It's owned by Google. It's not a public sphere. You, as an individual, as a viewer, can go to any video on YouTube and you can use these same tools. If you think that somebody is harassing or bullying or being racist, then you can go into that little section and you can charge them for being a harasser or a bullier or a racist. Those are the tools that were provided by YouTube. But it's not the fault of the viewer that uses the tools that YouTube provides to make their experience a little bit more palatable, to make their time on this platform a little bit easier to handle. Anybody can use those same tools, but it wasn't the people, it wasn't the viewers that made those tools. That was YouTube. That was Google. And being a private company under capitalism, YouTube and Google can choose to platform or deplatform anybody they so choose. I don't personally see any reason why I should ever platform a racist. I think that their views are terrible, disgusting, horrible, and it's not my brand. I don't like to give a voice to people that are trying to take other people's voices away. I'm not going to give someone that is actively calling for a genocide the ability to use my channel to call for that genocide. If I own a theater, you don't get to just come to my theater, stand up on stage, and talk about anything you feel like. It's my theater. I get to choose who's on stage. And if you don't like that, go get your own theater. Go build your own stage. Go find your own platform. But this isn't really about that, is it? I mean, we all understand that YouTube is a private company and they can do with their private property whatever they so choose. The problem isn't that. The problem is the principle. We're now censoring certain types of speech on a platform that most of us consider to be the town square, the public sphere, something that should be open to everyone. But it isn't. So how does this look to the general public? Well, it's not hard to find everybody's fucking reactions. And what is it doing? Well, it's showing that the right was being horrible and terrible and racist, and they need to be stopped. So the left came in and stopped them from being horrible and racist. But it also looks like the left is being extreme and wants to destroy and censor anything that they find just the slightest bit problematic. The left gets to look to all of the liberals as though they're vindicated because they were finally able to stop this anti-SJW scum for projecting horrible, bad, racist beliefs. And the right-wingers get to look at the leftists and think, oh my goodness, they're terrible, horrible individuals, and they just want to censor and stop our freedom of speech, our First Amendment, my free speech, my free speech. And they get to look like martyrs. And in the meantime, those two sides just keep fighting with each other. But is any of it real? Does any of it matter? Is any of it actually what's going on? No, of course not. That's just the show. That is the spectacle. This is, in action, what we've been talking about for months now. We're not looking at these individuals as human beings. We're looking at them as the lefty or the right-winger. But we're not actually seeing what's really going on. We're not actually looking through the code. We're not actually looking at the real problem. So what is actually going on here? Well, I said at the beginning of this video that Carlos Meza works for a news organization called Vox. Well, it turns out that Vox is owned by NBC Universal. NBC Universal being a subsidiary of GE, one of the 6 media corporations that control basically all of the news and information and ideas that are being projected to you on a daily basis. These are the people that choose what we see, what we hear, and what we believe every single day. If you watch any mainstream news outlets, if you watch almost any news outlets at all, you're getting fed by one of these 6 corporations. And these 6 corporations look at YouTube and the content being produced therein as a fucking threat. Not only a threat to their bottom line, because yeah, the people creating news-like content on YouTube certainly does encroach on their bottom line, but it also is an existential crisis for them. They feel like they may no longer exist. Thanks to us. Thanks to those of us that are out there actually doing real journalism. It's funny because here I am sitting at this desk ranting and raving, and yet somehow I'm a better journalist, a better reporter on the economy than the people that are actually paid to do it. I'm doing this for free. I'm doing this because I feel like I need to get this information out there. Of course, I do have a few Patreons. Thank you, every single one of you, for being there and for helping me produce this show that everybody here is watching right now. Thank you for that. But I'm doing this virtually for free. And somehow, I'm better at doing the news than CNN. That's a pretty fucked up situation to be in. And NBC Universal, aka GE, aka Vox, looks at this and thinks, we need to tear that down. We need to destroy that. The idea that this is somehow a left versus right issue is so unbelievably nearsighted, so myopic, that it actually makes me laugh. Ha! This isn't about left versus right. The left will get hit with this just as hard, if not harder, than anybody else on the right. Already, we've seen excellent YouTubers like Kevin Logan. Please go subscribe to Kevin Logan. He is a fucking revolutionary. We've seen channels like his already get demonetized too. This isn't left versus right. The left goes out of its way, the real left goes out of its way to attack the system and to find ways to fix it. And you don't think for a second that the structure is going to want to have us around for very long. You don't really think that the owners are going to want to keep us in a position where we can tell them what they're doing wrong. Think about the content that's the most popular on YouTube right now. What gets the most views? Is it people like me sitting here in front of a camera, telling you my opinion, giving you commentary, explaining things about the news? Or is it from late night TV shows, clips from mass media organizations, or multi-million-dollar music artists backed by one of these 6 media corporations? That's what's getting the most views. That's what's getting promoted to the top of the pile. Yes, you still have people like myself producing news, but even the people that are just standing in front of the camera, the independent artists, are for the most part vlogs. They're nothing that are going to enrage or scare the producers. They're nothing that is going to terrify or push away any advertisers, because that's what we really have to pay attention to here. The advertisers, the structure. It's not a matter of left versus right. It's a matter of the people versus the elites. This little cabal 100 miles away gets to dictate to all of us how we get to act on this platform. They're the ones that get to decide who gets to stay or go. They're the ones who get to decide who gets money or not. They're the ones who gets to decide all of these things in, like I said a moment ago, in a sphere that shouldn't be owned by one single person. It should be like the public square. It should be something that everybody can enjoy without having to have a king, a dictatorship, or a board of directors deciding for us how we can act. Through the majority of our day in modern society, we spend our time on social media. We don't go out with friends as often. We don't go out and see family that often, but we always are online. So the public sphere, or what should be the public sphere, happens to be privatized. It happens to be owned by individuals that get to tell us what we can and can't do on them. This is a society of control. You no longer get the freedom to act or do anything you want in public because the public sphere has become digitized. And the public sphere is no longer public. It's private. So what am I getting at here? Well, basically, all of this has been the spectacle. It's all been an illusion. But what really needs to go on here is a change of the system, a revolution, if you will. This should be a public platform. This should be somewhere where people can come and express their viewpoints without having to worry about that cabal 100 miles away dictating to us what we can and can't say. So the solution is clear. We have to seize the means of video production. We have to democratize the online space. We actually have to have a social media that isn't dictated and controlled by a small group of individuals, and we have to make it into something that is for all of us. A public space, community property. None of this looking at the system as though it's a monopoly and breaking it apart into smaller groups. That is true, but breaking it apart doesn't help anything because all you've created is an oligopoly. A dictatorship of many instead of just one. And the funny thing about platforming Nazis is that if we democratize the online sphere, usually when everybody sees these hideous, monstrous people, when sunlight actually does work as that disinfectant, everybody gets to see them for what they really are. And then they get to vote. And then they get to decide if that group is worthy of staying on that platform. And I don't know about you, but most of us look at racism and bigotry and sexism as something that we would vote against. Anyway, that's my show. My name is Aaron. If you do get a chance, please check me out on Patreon. Every dollar does help fund this show, and $10 helps me fund it even more. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.